I grew up in a house that was always like, kind of like, this is the situation, this is the conflict or whatever. And then it's like, but you're more than a conqueror, and you just kind of throw scripture at it. So I would like
Mhm.
very quickly, my wife would experience an emotion that could be negative or fearful or doubtful. And like, I would immediately come with like this kind of like scriptural encouragement that in my head, I think I'm doing the right thing, but really I like needed to allow some space for that to breathe. So like how do you respond, I guess, now compared to like
Yeah.
a year into your marriage? Like, what have
Dude,
you learned?
yeah. I mean, obviously, I think this, of course, a huge one for any husband, but listening is huge. I mean, I think my dad's response, we had 3 older brothers, and so his response to anything was always very much that same response. It's like, "You've got this. You're more than a conqueror. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. The Bible says this." And it was very much like that was what worked for us boys. We were excited by that. We were motivated by it. But you're right, is I tried to fix a lot of those things within our earlier conversations rather than really listening and seeking to understand. And I'm so blessed that my wife is so quick to, I mean, honestly, like, to grow and to adapt and to honestly let go of the things that she did hold on to. Because I realized getting into our marriage, I kind of, as continued to probe and discover more things, I was like, how are you doing so well? Like your life, the way your mental capacity, like the way you handle situations, I mean, have really grown in such a supernatural way where a lot of people would allow this just to be something that they continue to go back to and be the crutch, that they say, you know what, I was raised in this kind of manner or I had this situation happen to me and just continue to go back to that. But I've watched as my wife just use every opportunity just to grow and to learn, but then also to really challenge me, in our marriage of, understanding, of course, emotions, which I don't take to emotions as well. But it's been a growing challenge, and still, of course, obviously, after 5 years, we're still learning and growing within that. But I
Mhm.
feel like patience has played a huge key within that,
Mm.
and God has really blessed our marriage within those things, so that we do fight, but we always understand that, we're not fighting each other with any situations. We're fighting whatever's getting in the middle of us.
Mhm.
Right.
And one thing I wish more husbands would understand is you are the head of the home, and the head I see is almost like being a roof to the shelter that you've established. And like being a shelter is being emotional stability. It is being a safe place for your wife, especially if she does come from something dealing with shame. Is the ability to go to you and process, and almost just even the unmingling of what's undone inside of her isn't always something like you're saying, Corey, that you just have to say, well, you are this. She might
Right.
know that, but she needs to know that you are a safe place to
Yeah.
journey with.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like all those things can be true and still not be what is needed in the moment too. It's like it's not denying that you're not more than a conqueror and that you were fearfully and wonderfully made, but it's also just allowing a space for like the recognition of, or the ability to process a feeling of past trauma, and to sit and not always like, I think men, we just want to be the fixers all the time. Like it feels so good to solve a problem because then we can move on to the next thing. But there will always be a next thing and a next thing. And sitting in tension, which I really feel like that's sometimes like that's where God is, like that's uncomfortable because it's not always the quick
Mhm.
fix for everything. Um, so I think, yeah, it's just learning to be okay in tension with my partner,
Mhm.
with my spouse, um,
Yeah. There's a C.S.
is
Lewis
allowed.
quote, and I'll butcher it, but it's something about pain is the instrument that God uses to arouse a deaf world. And I feel like
Mm.
that's so true and accurate to what you're saying.